Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, a tale of 2 weeks for Behren Morton so far this season. How do we assess it? Also, a point of Texas Tech fan freakout I don't identify with. And this is about your 25-minute heads up on some salty Chris level language.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. It fixes tired fast with zero sugar and a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. So go to 5hourenergy.com and use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Offer only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan, back for a hump day edition of the program as we hit the downhill slope of the week. Red Raiders back at Jones Stadium on Saturday morning to host North Texas. We'll begin to turn our attention that way, of course, continuing to process what we saw Saturday in Pullman, Washington. Want to get to a part of that game, Chris, with you today, but also a part of a football conversation at large as we live in the era of the football safetist. Wrap them in bubble wrap. Safety, 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 safety. And it impacted, unfortunately, negatively Texas Tech on Saturday, as I'm sure it will and has and will continue to impact teams across the nation. We'll get to the Chapman-Lewis ejection, some thoughts from Coach McGuire on that based on a question that you asked Coach McGuire. I feel like we've got watches like in all kinds of directions, O-line shuffle watch, etc., Taj Brooks watch, and we're going to throw in a Micah Hudson watch. We got a latest update there with some comments from Coach McGuire on the five-star wide receiver, Micah Hudson, who we did see in the game, but apparently not to the extent that a Tech fan would like based on some of the feedback. But I want to kick off today's conversation talking about a guy that we called the most important going into Saturday night's ball game. And it wasn't necessarily because of him individually. To me, that was more so based in the position, that being our quarterback. I want to talk Behren Morton and a tale of two very different weeks so far early on this season. So to kick off that portion of the conversation, let's get to Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire on his signal caller, Behren Morton.
Number-wise, he's number 4 in the country in passing. If you look at our passing yardage from last year, Matt can tell you exactly what the numbers are, but I think it's like 120 yards more per game. You know, if I could rewind everything before the game, I wish I'd have put my arm around him and said, hey, look, you don't have to try to win this game because Taj is not in the game. I think at times he pressed. I thought that he really handled some pressure well. I do think that he handled getting hit multiple times for the first time, and that's always when a guy has had injuries, with his shoulders, how does he feel, and he was upstairs whenever I was coming downstairs getting ready to meet with Kittley, and, he feels good. But the one thing that we have continued to talk about that I think we had 2 interceptions that we are on our side of the ball. We're getting ready to score a field goal or touchdown, and, we put the ball in the air and put it in harm's way, and we get intercepted, and that can't happen. And then I think he'll be the first one to tell you. He might have said it after the game the other night, but I think there were times we've got to, and I think he does it probably with Taj because, we all kind of lean on Taj so much, and in a good way. He probably hands the ball off instead of, throwing the ball out at different times. And but the biggest thing with him is taking care of the football. I mean, that's the negative right now. If you take away the interceptions, I think he's playing good. I think he can play better. I think we need him to play better, but we definitely need to be able to run the football better.
Kind of difficult to assess, at least for me personally, Chris, because you had such dramatically different weeks. And there's also the general thought, at least again for me personally, that I'm not even sure what I feel like a Morton ceiling would look like because we haven't seen him healthy for long enough to feel like, all right, well, this is the kind of quarterback that he can be. So still a little bit of a mystery to me, but I thought week one, we saw him made some throws that looked like it was a quarterback that was feeling pretty good, or certainly better than he was a season ago. And then disjointed, kind of the name of the game. And I don't mean from a physical standpoint, on Saturday against Washington State. But you brought it up yesterday. Coach McGuire touches on it there. Maybe trying to press a little bit because of the absence of Taj Brooks. Pass protection maybe suffers a little bit more because of the absence of Taj Brooks. So I'm a little conflicted in how I've felt about Behren Morton to start the season so far. It doesn't seem like I'm the only one.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine. But he didn't play well, and I don't know how well everybody played around him, specifically in front of him. I think you could expect to be blitzed quite a bit until you can figure that out and protect a bit. Whether it's your running back helping and keeping tight ends in, or just your group up front. I think that he did get banged around quite a bit, and then I think that caused some problems. He'll be better for it. We've seen him complete so many deep balls, and it's fine. And it just wasn't there on Saturday. And whether that is delivering it too quick, or being on a different page, or feeling like, okay, I got to turn loose of this thing now, or I'm about to get hit, or whatever the case may be, I think he'll be better for because he will be better. And he threw for a lot of yards, and passing yards, or just offensive yards in general, sometimes can feel hollow. Yeah. I think, so we're clear here, what Joey was talking about, I have it like you're sixth in the country in passing offense through 2 games at 360 a game. North Texas is actually third in the country at 384. But it doesn't feel like you're scary with that aspect of your game, because there's a lot of empty plays and a lot of plays where you're just not being efficient or connecting or whatever it may be. And at some point Taj will be back, maybe sooner than later. I think he's either back this weekend or the following weekend, based on body language and based on him being there on Saturday, and there's no visible injury or anything like that you can tell. I mean, arm injury, I'm like, okay, there's no brace, he doesn't have it in a cast. I'm like, this is a kid that I just think is going to play. And so maybe you get your security blanket back sooner than later. But, and you've got a lot of new pieces that you're trying to build some timing and chemistry with. I think, you don't want to gloss over that how many spring practices he missed, which was time to work with timing and chemistry and all those things. And all these, other than Coy, everybody's new. So I don't know if it's, man, I thought you were going here while I was going there. I don't know what the situation is. Only like Zach and Behren and that receiver and the play call and all that. Do you know who's screwing up? But I just think if you clean things up in front of him a little bit, which is going to be difficult now. That part worries me. But I do think you're going to see a lot of blitz. I think in various things, because you keep hearing kitchen sink. I think that ACU and Washington State have shown this offensive front a lot of different things, trying to either take away a run game or confuse a quarterback or whatever it may be. And I expect that to continue, because this dude you're going to face this coming weekend, the defensive coordinator for North Texas, he is from the Iowa State tree. He learned under John Heacock and was the corners coach in Ames, Iowa for many, many years. And he's going to run that smoke and mirrors, goofy defense that you think this is what they're in. And it's just, yeah. So, but I think Behren will play. He'll be fine. I really do. I really feel that way. But he just didn't have his best game on Saturday, and that happens. But unfortunately, with that position, that if so many other things can play poorly, and if that position plays really well, sometimes it's enough to overcome. Now, Pat Mahomes proved that at times it's still not enough to overcome at times, but I think he just will be better going forward, I think.
Well, and historically, at least once upon a time, it seemed like one of the great ways to slow down a pass rush or a defense just teeing off on a quarterback was to establish a ground game and find some way to get ball carriers involved. And obviously I would love for Taj Brooks to be back on the field on Saturday. But I got to tell you, and I've said it already this week, I was fairly encouraged. Maybe I my expectation was just low. I don't know, but I thought Cameron Valdez and Cameron Dickey actually performed pretty admirably. Was not perfect. We all remember the glaring missed block, but as ball carriers, I thought there was some things to work with there, and I don't know if you'll be able to duplicate that again, but it does seem like there's a collection of approaches to that, because we're also talking about Cameron Brown. We saw Jalen Conyers involved as well. Don't really feel like we've seen all that, kind of get off the ground, but I wonder if that might be one thing, and we've already heard Coach McGuire mention that this week, one thing that could help out the quarterback a little bit against North Texas and moving forward in general, to get that more involved and more established.
Yeah, and I think that Behren is still very much, it was his 14th or 15th start. I think he's still very much, and I guess quarterbacks, theoretically, you're always figuring it out, but I think he's still figuring out the aspect of, are we in the right play? What's the right read here? Are we putting ourselves in the best position to, do I hand it? Do I throw it? And throw it to who? I mean, there's that whole mental dynamic of, now you've got, the headset communication. And if you get past 15 seconds, it connects and maybe they switched up the look. And so, then you start overanalyzing and going, okay, just all that stuff. It can be a million things. What's the play clock doing? I just think about sometimes what a quarterback can be doing. That's why so many times coaches just want to try to keep it simple for them. But Zach and Cliff and so many people in that tree, they want to give that quarterback freedom, because they don't want to hamstring them and say, this is the play, run it, and here's where it needs to go. You've got to give some leeway, but getting that to the point where they are making the right decision all the time is a bit tricky, especially when defenses they've caught up with the spread. They've shown you a variety of different things, and everybody is quote unquote multiple, so you don't know what you're going to get from play to play. I think back when Mike was running this offense, when the air raid was introduced, everybody for the most part lined up in the same defense so much of the time, so you kind of knew where everybody was going to be, and you could pick it apart. And now everybody's like 3-man front, 4-man front, 3-3-5, 4-2-5. You got the word hybrid has been entered. All this stuff. And so, but Behren, I think mentally will learn from what he had. You just got to keep people out of his face, though. I wonder about the run game. Are you good enough to move people? Mm-hmm. That's why Taj is so good, because, last year you weren't moving people, but he would just kind of maybe have a would-be tackler, and he's going to get 4 more yards because he's just going to break it. And I don't know if Dickey or Valdez are quite that way, but because if you really want to talk about having a really good running game, it's when you just raise your hand and go, we're running it. We're handing it right here. He's going over through this hole. Good luck. And you just move people. And I don't think you're anywhere near being able to do that. But Taj makes up for some of that. So we'll kind of see what we get. Hopefully this weekend. And then you're back at mostly a full complement, because when you think about how banged up you are on defense, it's really just Vinny Scurry on offense. Everybody else is healthy if Taj were to be back. Mm-hmm. If not, you're missing your best running back and you're missing your best offensive lineman. If Taj plays, it's really just your best offensive lineman that you're missing. But you can work with that, and you're going to have to.
Hope so. I'm wondering if this is a fair question to consider. First, today's episode brought to you by Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Locked On Texas Tech fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love. It's Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Red Raiders? From recruiting players, hiring coaching staff, to overseeing training camp and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Think you can handle the pressure? Find out today. And even better, Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want and when you want. And of course, we've got a special offer for Locked On Texas Tech fans. Use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. That's LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost for your program. Make sure you take advantage of this perk, as it's going to help your team get off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or find it in the app stores, and kick off the ultimate football experience with Ultimate College Football Head Coach now, and begin your coaching legacy today. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Never sweat buying tickets to your favorite event again with Gametime. It's always a breeze using the Gametime app, where you're going to find the best last-minute deals, and I love being able to scout out a view from any seat before pulling the trigger. And of course, you're always doing it at the lowest price guaranteed. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it begins, which means you can finish off that final brat, that final beer, at your own pace at the tailgate, because Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats to any event. Gametime gives you the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets, but not just fast, also secure and simple to use. So right now, download the Gametime app and create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today for last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. I'm wondering if this is a fair question to consider. I really feel like we were ultra spoiled whenever it came to quarterback development under Mike Leach. It was plug and play. Oh, here's the next legend. Here's the next record breaker. Here's another record breaker. Oh, here's another record breaker. I mean, they roll out there and those guys are ready to go, and they were all pretty much very successful. I feel like we also were above average in that regard under Cliff Kingsbury. Even though from a head coaching standpoint, there was plenty left to be desired, I still feel like he was able to get some things out of or quarterbacks not named Patrick Mahomes that were also, fairly productive. I felt like he was able to bring them along. Is it fair to sit here and wonder if Coach Kittley is able to do the same thing? I know it's a very small sample size, and again, they got to stay healthy to be brought along, which we haven't quite gotten a taste of that just yet, but I don't know. I wonder if it's another area where maybe I've been a little bit spoiled as a Tech fan over the years, and it's not just quite the same experience without guys like that, two very special ones from a quarterback development standpoint in place. And I don't say that to suggest that Coach Kittley's not capable of that, but I wonder for Behren, because it's not like he's an inexperienced guy. He's kind of like in that in-between zone. He's got, I think like you just said there, about a full season worth of starts intermittently under his belt, so it's not like he can even stack them, but it's something that's kind of been on my mind rolling into this season as you look back on a Donovan Smith or a Tyler Shuck or a Behren Morton, is sort of the progression for each of them individually as quarterbacks as the years have rolled by.
I think the best thing and again, Zach's young, and so there's not a huge sample size, but the name I would offer up is Bailey Zappi. I mean, he put Bailey Zappi in the NFL, and he played for the Patriots. I don't think he made the team this year, but I think he was we saw that firsthand when Zach was coaching him on the other sideline. I was like, damn, he looked like John Mateer out there, as a matter of fact, or whatever, but he was throwing it. But no, that's so much of the OC and the QB. It's about their relationship. I think that you have two guys right there that really like each other, and I think want to do well for each other. I think Behren has really grown up a lot in trying to study and learn. It's a process. And the one thing is, as experienced as he is in one way, he's very inexperienced in another, because think about the normal player that would have started 14 or 15 games and how much practice time they would have had. And Then remember all the practice time that this kid does not have. I mean, how many practices did he miss last season? 30, 40? I mean, like when you're talking about 3 a week or 3 or 4 a week for a period of, 6 to 8 weeks? Mm-hmm. And then you shut him down halfway through the spring this year. I mean, and so I think, some of that factors in, but he needs some protection up front. And I think you got it in week 1 and pretty fun results. And so I just look for them to bounce back, because that's the one thing that North Texas, on paper anyway, they're going to struggle defending the pass. That's kind of the bugaboo that they had in year 1. I think they've given up some passing yards so far this season. Now they're going to throw it too, But I think there'll be some opportunities there for Behren. And like Joey said, man, so much of it is just if you just take away those 2 interceptions. Now, one of them was a 4th down, and like you feel like you got to throw it. You feel like you got to make a play. Like, what do we do? You know, if I just take a sack and we're turning over on downs, and so maybe he forced it. But you just got to take care of the ball. And I think if he'll just kind of take a deep breath and not press, and just kind of ease into this deal, I think he'll be fine. And that's why I just say this is part of the growing process here. Of maturing into a starting QB.
Okay, so spinning the wheel of freak out, or whatever you want to call it, we look to another area. This being one, Micah Hudson, who has been on the field to a small extent through the first 2 weeks. 5-star freshman wide receiver, obviously, for the Red Raiders. And that's not sitting well so far with Tech fans. So I kind of feel like I've already asked you about this. We just had this conversation last week, but in the interest of getting to things the audience wants to be discussed or what they want to hear about, we're going to get to it again, and we will defer again first to Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and America's #1 sportsbook is shaking it up to kick off football season with an offer a football fan can't afford to miss. Right now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. And, of course, you can cancel at any time. Again, from right now through September 22nd, bet $5 and take advantage of a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. We're going to get to it again, and we will defer again first to Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire.
Doubt we got to get him more involved, but it's kind of like at what point? What are we doing? Is it to take? I want to say he's the 3rd leading rusher the 3rd leading receiver in the country. So we take Josh Kelly off the field. Do we take Caleb Douglas off the field? Do we take Corey Aikman off the field? Just to say, hey, we've got Michael Hudson on the field. I will tell you this: that guy is fired up. He will play more. I don't know what that looks like right now on Monday, but that guy's fired up. He's all in. He's got a great attitude. He's a great teammate, and he just wants to win. And he's going to help us win. I mean, I know Kenny's going to start using him more, not necessarily in the return game, but he's going to start using him more on special teams. And then we've got to come up with some things to, get him in the game more and get him more involved.
So there are many things as far as the freak out factor through 2 weeks that I share with Texas Tech fans, of which I am one. This is not an entry on my wheel of freak out. I got to be honest. Micah Hudson is so far down the list of things that I'm really even rolling around in this empty space between my ears I call a noggin. I think this is based in a couple of different things. Maybe number one, first and foremost, a Tech fan inferiority complex in the transfer portal era where you just kind of feel like, boy, we've got to hang on to these people like grim death or they are out the door at the first sign of adversity, which obviously you've had some adversity through the first 2 weeks. Second layer, though, has nothing to do with a Tech fan. And it goes back to something that I think has bit Joey McGuire before. Some of the ways in which he was discussed this offseason, plain and simply. Hey, when are we going to see it? Week 1, generational. These types of things were used as adjectives and descriptors. And obviously that has not been the case as we start the season. But I feel like there's one big thing that maybe is escaping some of us as fans, and that is how ready is Micah Hudson? When he's been on the field so far, has he done what is asked of him or what he's supposed to do within the context of the offense? And I don't think that answer has been a 100% resounding yes. Is he someone you can trust in all situations, again, as a pass catcher? Now, there's all the other things that Coach McGuire alluded to regarding the success they've had with other pass catchers ahead of Hudson. on the depth chart that I think can also be true. But I know it's being discussed out there, so that's why I want to get to it again this week, Chris. I have an inkling as to what your response might be, and maybe something you mentioned on a previous episode. But I'm not really sharing in this this worry, I guess, as a Tech fan, like it seems so many others are. But could always be wrong, I guess. What are you thinking here as we get ready for week 3?
I think the fans are you're and listeners, viewers of this show, whatever, you're looking for reasons to for hope. We talk about it all the time. Keep it alive, right? And I think that people want an instant gratification with a big time player that was brought in. A lot was said and written about him, and so I certainly, and I think we'll continue to get the questions. I think that's just going to be part of this deal. Do I think he would have fixed even Micah Hudson playing at his best if he had it all figured out and was just aces and everything like that? Does that fix 37-16? I don't know. I mean, too many turnovers and penalties and all those kinds of things. I thought your receivers played pretty good, in the first in that second game. I thought we've talked about, maybe it wasn't Beren's best day and all that. I think Micah, you forget he did not go through spring football. I think they tried to train him and coach him at a couple of different positions so he can play inside and outside. So it's a lot to learn based on a couple of the plays on Saturday. I don't know if he ran the right route or if he's on the same page with the QB based on body language and just some interaction. Nothing angry, but a lot of pointing and kind of not real, some uncertainty there. I have no way of knowing, but I mean, as I'm standing 30 feet away watching this play out, I mean, that's kind of what I see. But, and I had somebody send something to me, I don't know, I guess it was Sunday or whatever. And it's like, man, he's probably already on the phone with his handlers and he's out the door. His handlers are his parents, and his dad played at Texas Tech. Desmond Royal was a good player for Spike. And if there's somebody that's outside of his family that's a quote unquote handler for him, it's a guy named Brian Nance, who we've talked about on this show, that is actually on the coaching staff and the player personnel department with James Blanchard and all those things. I can only say it so many times, and again, it's just up to people to believe or not believe in it. It doesn't matter to me, but I have zero concern about him going, screw this, man. This isn't what I signed up for. I'm out of here. He's very mature. He's working at it. I think that you'll see him more involved as we go. Every time they run in what they would term an empty set, where there's no running back in there and they go 5 wide, he's in there. If somebody were to get dinged up, you don't want that to happen. I think he would slide in and move up a spot. But I mean, unless I'm just looking at the wrong thing, I feel like that Coy Aiken and Josh Kelly and Caleb Douglas have been pretty good for you. And I think Joey said that after the game. It's like if we put Micah in, like we're taking off, somebody that has been pretty good. And but maybe they start to do a little bit of that just to kind of work him in a bit more. But this is just a process, and I know everybody wants it right now, but I just don't think there's any concern internally. And I think you and I are seemingly on the same page there. I think that if you're looking for stuff to worry about, there's a million other things, literally maybe a million.
Maybe a million. I mean, well, I just think there's the transfer portal era part of the paranoia, which is fine. That to me seems maybe even more justified, just the era that we're in.
Sure. Yeah.
But certainly not from a winning football game standpoint. Would he be very high on my list right now to say, boy, what are we missing? A wide receiver. That's just not even on the list to me right now as far as things that is like a missing link for Texas.
I wish he could play offensive tackle.
Yeah, of course, or maybe rush a quarterback or something like that. But
yeah, he was an edge guy. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
And now you've given me a double-edged sword, because every time they're 5 wide empty backfield, I'm thinking, oh hell, what are we doing? Oh, Micah Hudson's out there. So now I'm not going to know how to feel if I'm wanting to see more Hudson, but it's got to come in an empty set.
Yeah,
it's just I guess another reminder that life is inherently contradictory. So
I know, but I get it. I get it, and I appreciate people's interest in Micah, and he deserves to be wondered about and all those things. But you know, like you've had receivers here named like TJ West, Kilby Volson, DJ Crest. They've been here for a year, like going on 2 years. None of them have sniffed the field.
Yeah.
None of them have sniffed the field, and they were 3 or 4 star type guys. So, I mean, but I certainly understand. I get it.
You upgraded your pass catcher room. That much has been obvious. If there's one thing I feel like signed, sealed, and delivered heading into 2024 and it's come to fruition, it has been that. So it's gotten more crowded. Maybe it wasn't the same situation a year ago, but it ain't a year ago. It's now. Okay, I want to get to this before we get out of here, Chris, because obviously it's something that is a part of a football conversation now weekly. You see it all across the country, whether it's honestly college football or in the National Football League, the era of the football safetist. There is some pile of bodies somewhere that I still have not been able to discover, but must be out there since we've totally turned the game upside down, shaken all the change out of its pockets and made it into something for people that actually hate football. Is that what we wound up with? But nonetheless, we saw this negatively impact Texas Tech as it related to a Chapman Lewis targeting penalty on Saturday, ejected from the ball game. And you actually asked Coach McGuire for his thoughts on this and in general, how these things are assessed.
Anytime that you go helmet to helmet, and it was one of those deals, they both kind of lowered their head at the same time. That's the tough thing. They're never going to take that. They're never going to take that into account. They're always going to protect, and they should. I mean, it's one of those deals. I'm glad they did change the rule that, you're not losing him, as long as what you would lose him. But from the standpoint of whenever they both duck their head, they did it at the same time, and they don't take into account that they both do it at the same time. They just take into account that, you used your helmet on the ball carrier.
This is just totally lost on me. Again, I'm a relic of the past. Whenever it comes to these things, I loved football, and I think a lot of people did once upon a time because there was so much physical risk taken by the fact that you stepped on that field. It's a violent game, and the violence is part of what makes it so great and so much fun to watch, and again, makes those who engage in it so admirable in so many ways. But we are in this era now where the game has been entirely changed. You can't even look in the direction of a quarterback. You can't breathe on him. Forget about trying to tackle him in a way that you once could. And I guess at this point in time, I'm just saying, all right, well, let's blow the entire damn thing up. Throw out the ball carrier too, because his helmet was lowered as well. So if you're going to throw our guy out, I guess throw the other guy out, and then we'll just watch the refs run around in circles or something. I don't know what the result would be, but it is frustrating to the nth degree in general as far as these rules are concerned. But before we get out of here, Chris, was it actually the right call? Do you think that the rule was applied or enforced accurately given what they want it to be in this era?
If you have children in the car and you're listening to this podcast, cover their ears up, turn it down for a second. That call was complete bullshit. I mean, it triggered me because that's just it's unfortunate. By the letter of the law, I think that this is a crew that had no idea. I mean, you don't call an illegal crackback block on Mo Horn, which knocks him out of the game. I don't know what his status will be for the weekend. It was textbook. This is when you are crouched down, okay, your feet are on the ground, you're crouched down and like trying to make a tackle, and the quarterback spins around and hits your helmet. What are we doing, man? Mm-hmm. Like, what are we doing? There was a call in the Baylor-Utah game that was the very definition of launch, crown of helmet, the whole thing. I'm like, that's what targeting is. I just I don't know what this is. What this young man was supposed to do. I really have no idea what he's supposed to do. Just I mean, do you just lay down? I mean, I really don't, and that's what bothers me. It's like, okay, if you're saying this is a penalty, then how is he supposed to make this tackle when he's literally bending his knees? He's down. He's like, I mean, whatever, and then he just gets spun into, and then away we go. But I had a hard time with that. It just, did that affect the game or affect that you won or lost? No. I'm glad that his penalty is over with.
Yeah.
Because he set out the rest of the first half. He missed the second half. He's back this Saturday. But that one was. I don't know what targeting is. I guess. I just don't. It's too subjective. My thing with that penalty, or that if you're going to make a call like that, it almost, and I hate to say it like this, but I don't know another way to phrase it. It almost needs to be blatant, like blatant targeting, like
a dirty play or something.
Yeah, again, if you put your head down and you launch, if you jump out and like you're not even, but when you're just sitting there and like you're breaking down and you just get spun into, like I have a hard time with that, taking a kid off the field, and I don't know, that drives me crazy. Yeah, and I don't know Joey's response. I think he was trying to be PC there, and he's trying to, and he's trying to be. There's coaches that are trying to make sure that kids are protected, and I understand that, but I also want to defend Chapman Lewis here and saying, like, if you're teaching him in film the next day, like, okay, next time, Chapman, when you're doing this, like, I literally don't know what you're telling him to do any different. Like, he can't. What is he supposed to do? So, anyways,
look. If kids need to be protected, the biology building is a very safe environment. Maybe consider withdrawing from the football program. Yeah. And I know what they got to be coaching him to do. Next time you say, sir, are you interested in consensual tackling? I would like to take you to the ground now. And I guess that's what football will be at one point or another. Yeah. I am the wrong person to placate to this kind of conversation. I got no interest in it whatsoever. Again, I think it is tailoring football for people that hate football. So great.
I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for the language. I apologize, but
you stuff your sorries in a sack, Chris. We're not going to apologize for that.
Dang, man. Dang. It's just like.
Well, the ejection part of it too, man, really grinds my gears. The entire thing ticks me off, the penalty and all that. But removing what typically are good, impactful players that are making these plays from the game, that's what we want. It ain't what I want. It could just be me, though. All right. Yeah. Let me calm down. Goose Fraba. I think, how many times am I going to say Goose Fraba this season? Maybe a new record. Chris.
Namaste. Yeah.
Enjoyed the time as always, my man. We'll be back on the other side as we creep closer to another ball game back at Jones Stadium. We'll begin to look ahead a little bit more in depth to the Mean Green of North Texas, featuring more familiar faces. That's been a theme so far this season. So
a bunch of them.
Looking forward to that, man. And we'll see you then.
Okay, sounds good. Looking forward to it. Keep hope alive, everybody.
Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Appreciate those everydayers out there mixing it up. One of the best ways to help us grow the show is to comment anything below. So go on and do that. Thanks for being out there, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.